f parentheses x parentheses. The notation for a function, quote, f of x, end quote. If y equals 3x plus 2, we can also write f parentheses x parentheses equals 3x plus 2. The function notation makes it easier to apply more input values into the x variable position to gain more output values. In other words, the function notation works to make an equation more like an expression in its use. This goes back to my assertion that an expression is possibly more useful than an equation. 3x plus 2 is an expression, and y equals 3x plus 2 is an equation because of the equals sign. By replacing the quote y equals end quote with the quote f parentheses x parentheses equals end quote, the equation is now in function form. The function f parentheses x and parentheses equals 3x plus 2, we can write f parentheses 1 and parentheses equals 3 times 1 plus 2, f parentheses 2 and parentheses equals 3 times 2 plus 2, f parentheses 3 parentheses equals 3 times 3 plus 2, f parentheses 4 parentheses equals 3 times 4 plus 2, etc. These function forms are spoken as, quote, f of 1 equals 3 times 1 plus 2, end quote, and, quote, f of 2 equals 3 times 2 plus 2, end quote, and f of 3 equals 3 times 3 plus 2, end quote, and f of 4 equals 3 times 4 plus 2, end quote, etc. A benefit of the function notation might be in seeing more clearly how the x input value is the independent variable because we choose it, and the y output value, parentheses, now called the quote f of x and end quote value end parentheses, is the dependent variable or dependent value because it depends on what was input for x. We pronounce the function notation as, quote, f of x, end quote, or given f parentheses 2 and parentheses, we say, quote, f of 2, end quote. Function notation was classically introduced in Algebra 2, but recently it has been moved down to Algebra 1. The main reason for this change might be that it is easier to understand, use, and apply equations more like how expressions are used. Function notation is replacing the y in an equation with an f parentheses x and parentheses to make an equation more useful in iterative, parentheses repeated and parentheses calculations, parentheses like an expression and parentheses. Synonyms, function notation, related words, the function machine, input, output, independent variable, dependent variable.